Hey friends, welcome back to another video. My name's Emma Lefave, and today we are going to be doing our first holiday tutorial, but we're not necessarily doing a new tutorial. I thought it would be a fun idea to recreate my most popular holiday card tutorial that I did about 3 years ago back in 2019. Now I wanted to try this out because I feel like I've grown as an artist, I've learned a couple things, and I wanted to see if the designs that I came up with back then kind of resonate today and see if I can elevate them just a bit, but still making it simple and easy for you guys. So that's what we're doing today, so let's jump right in and start. Okay, so today I am going to be recreating my most popular holiday card tutorial. I did this about 3 years ago in 2019, and I thought I would give it a try again, but use what I've learned over the years. I feel like I've developed more as an artist, I've learned a few more things, my style might have changed a little bit, so I want to try and keep the same designs, but see if I can elevate it a little bit, revamp them to see if I can make it just a bit better, but still keep it as easy as possible for you guys. So for this, I am going to be painting on these Etcher Lab watercolor cards that I got from them. Absolutely love their paper products. So it comes in a pack of 30 cards. They are nice and thick. They're 100% cotton, 300 GSM, so there's a great weight to them. And what I love about them is that I can actually just paint on these cards. I have had watercolor cards in the past. I believe I used the Strathmore ones for years, and I never actually painted on the watercolor paper because it was awful. I would actually cut up my Arches paper to fit on it, and then I would glue it. But with these ones, these are great paper. I absolutely love them. It's the same paper that's in my sketchbook, just a bit thicker, and they work really, really well, so I can just paint right on these things. It has a score line so you can easily fold it, and they also do have beautiful envelopes that you can also purchase. These things in itself, I know you can't feel it, but they are so thick and so nice. They just kind of feel luxurious, but these are also available on their website. Now, one of the reasons why I am using these cards for the tutorial is because I am hosting a giveaway for a pack of these greeting cards. Absolutely love them. So please make sure to check the description below for all the details so you guys can enter. This giveaway is being hosted on Instagram, so if you don't have Instagram, I definitely suggest you get it because I also release so much more content over there. Tons of extra reels, stories, so much more content that you're missing out on. So head over there and check it out, and also make sure to enter to win this giveaway. Okay, so let's jump right in and start this tutorial. Okay, so I'm going to start with my first design, and just because I don't want to fold the card, I want to lay it flat, but I also want to have a good idea of how to keep it centered. I'm just going to put a piece of tape over the scored line of where the halfway mark is, just so I know that this is what I have to paint on. It's not really to keep any watercolor off of this or anything, just to give myself an idea of how to keep it centered. Okay, so the first design that I'm going to do is the one I did in the previous video, which is the mistletoe. And if you looked at the comments of that video, people were very angry that I put red berries on the mistletoe. In my defense, I didn't really think about it or care too much of it being accurate because it is a painting and it's not supposed to be realistic. It's just a pretty design. But people were pretty mad that I didn't do white berries and that I did red and called it mistletoe. Joke's on you. We all looked it up, and mistletoe can't have red berries. So there. But for the sake of today, I am going to do white berries just to change it up a bit. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do, because I am doing white berries, I'm going to just kind of sketch them out because I don't want to paint over them. So I'm just going to do like a little cluster of like 3 berries. Okay, I'm going to do one there, and then I'm going to do slightly over here just to keep it a little bit, not completely symmetrical where they're side by side. One's a little bit above, and then I might do some underneath after. But I just want to kind of mark those out just so I know where they are and I don't paint over them. Okay, so in the previous video that I did, I actually turned my card upside down because I found it was a lot easier to do the strokes this way. than rather than pulling them down to do the leaves. So I'm going to do that again because I like that technique. I thought it worked really well. It was just more comfortable for my arm, but do whatever is most comfortable for you. I'm just wetting up my palette. Okay. So I have my size 6 brush and my Winsor Newton professional watercolors. So for the previous video, I did use like the cheapest watercolors I had, and you can definitely do that. But the things I'm going to change, I'm going to kind of elevate this design a bit by using things that I have learned over the years. So the one thing I've learned is to change up the values within your stem of leaves just to make it look a bit more interesting. So I'm going to use that technique. And I'm also going to change up the colors. The first design was all the same green. I think I'm going to, just make it a bit more diverse. So I'm going to use olive green for this, but you can use whatever green you want. Okay, and I'm going to start by just doing a little stem here, like that, and I'm just going to leave a little bit of a white space for the bow. And I am going to feel like those berries need to be lower. Okay, and now I'm going to start doing the leaves. So I'm just going to bring a stem down, and I'm going to do these kind of rounded petal shapes. They're like longer, but they're rounded. They don't really come to a point completely. They're a bit rounder at the end, and I'm just going to come out like that. I'm going to change up the value, meaning I'm going to make some darker. So this is a darker one. That will be a lighter one. I'll do a darker one over here too. Meaning I'm just putting more saturated paint on my brush, and then I'll show you when I do a lighter value. I'm going to take off some of that color, just have a little bit less, and so when I do that, it kind of bleeds into it. And just changing up the values makes it look interesting. I'm going to go around these berries. Actually, I'm going to grab a different green, a darker green, change up some of the colors, and they can bleed into each other. We're not doing like a super realistic mistletoe at all. This is still kind of loose, so don't feel like it has to be super, structured or whatever. Just have fun with it. Okay, I'm just doing these. I'm going to go around the berries, so I can even take just the tip of my brush and just draw around them. Really light wash. So I have light values, like the light values, and then some darker values. You can have some bleeding into each other. Just kind of play around with it. Then once in a while, turn it over just to see how it looks. See if you like the design. See if you like the way the leaves are kind of flowing. Just gonna wet this up a bit more. Have some touching so you get a bit of those color bleeds. Just going to wet this up just so it bleeds a bit better. See how it looks. See, it looks quite different than our last one, but I actually really like it. Just makes it look a bit more interesting, you know what I mean? And then I might do like a couple berries down here, so I'm just going to leave that. Just do one more down here and have like a berry or two there. Okay, I like it. Okay, now I'm going to do the bow. So I'm going to grab my red. Some bright red. You can do whatever color bow you'd like. I'm just going to do a little circle here. And then I'm going out to one side. So I'm going to take some of that pigment off, make it a bit lighter, and then we can do some darker shadows, just elevate the bow design a bit too. Just have those coming down, the strings. I can grab a little bit of darker red. Just for a bit of shadow. Tap it in some areas just to create a bit of dimension with the color. Like, it doesn't have to be all one flat color. Okay, like that. And we're gonna let that dry and then we will do the berries. So we'll be right back once it's dry. Okay, so now that it's dry, we can do the berries. I am going to, okay, so any kind of white object, we have some sort of undertone. I think I'm going to do an undertone of like a yellowish brown for the white berries. You could do a gray, whatever you'd like. You're just taking a really light wash of a color, and you're just going to kind of go around one side. Okay. Leaving a bit of a highlight. Let's do the highlight, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna grab a little bit of gray, like just the tiniest amount of color, and just do a little bit more. See, the reason why I did red berries on the last one was because I liked the way the color popped better. It just kind of went with the bow. It just kind of touched on, you know, it just went well. That's originally why I did the red berries, even though people were like, no, mistletoe isn't red. They don't have red berries. And now I'm kind of looking at it going, yeah, you know what? This kind of looks a little boring with the whitish kind of berries. And part of me wants to do the red berries again. And you know what? I think I'm going to do that because this is a painting. There are no rules. You don't have to call it mistletoe if you don't like. But for art purposes, I want it to look a certain way. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to make the red berries. I don't care. Okay, so I'm just going to do a light wash of red, leaving a little bit of that white space. A little white highlight. It's bleeding to the leaf a bit more than I'd like. Okay. And then while it's still wet, I'm going to grab a bit more color. Just intensify it around that one side. Yeah, see, the red berries just pop more. It just goes better. So there. If you have a chance, go back and look at the old video. People were just so mad in the comments. And one thing I don't get about that, it's like, if one person has already said it, like you don't need to say it as well, you know what I mean? I mean, I didn't really care too much. I just found it funny that so many people were like, no, that's not the color of the berries. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking about the berries now. But I just love the red. I think it goes so nicely. See that? It just pops. It just pops. So I'm just doing some behind here. Do one behind here. And I'm going to take my dark red, which I didn't do in the last one, because the last one I just did tiny little dots for the berries. So now I'm just going to darken around one side to give a bit more of a shadow. And look how elevated this design is already, just by a couple new little tweaks and things I've learned over the years. Like that. You know what I mean? It just makes it look a little bit more, not detailed, but just interesting to look at, right? The other designs were fine too. They were great and they're simple, but this is also simple and it just gives it a bit more pizzazz. I don't know. And then I'm going to take a little bit of that darker red again, and I'm just going to, while this is dry, I'm just going to outline it. I'm going to give a little bit of shadow. To one side of the string or the ribbon, like that. And there we go. And then in the last design, I also did a gold border, which I'm going to do on this one because I love doing gold borders. I just think it adds a little bit of shine and it looks really nice. So I'm just going to use my Etcher Lab gold palette. And I want it more on the yellowy side like this. And I always do my gold borders or my borders around my cards free-handed. I just think it gives it a bit more character. All right, and there we go. There is our first design, and I love the way it turned out. Okay, so now we're going to do another design, but funny story. I tried recording this video yesterday, and I was so tired that when I did the original mistletoe, I did it on the back of the card. And I don't want to waste this card. I don't want to waste it, so I'm just going to grab some extra watercolor paper and do it the way I used to and just glue it over after because I don't want to waste this. So I'm going to do my second design on this piece of watercolor paper and then I'm going to glue it to that card. So we're not wasting anything. We're not wasting paper, people. Make it work. All right, so now we're going to do our next design, and this is fairly easy. And the way we're going to change this up is that we are going to, again, work with those color values, just changing them a bit, light and dark ones, and then just, I don't know, we're gonna play around and just see how we do this. Okay, so I'm gonna grab my olive green. I'm obsessed with olive green if you haven't noticed. Okay, and these are gonna be in stems of 3 leaves. So I'm gonna start off with one like this. We're gonna start off with a stem, and I'm gonna do a leaf here. Okay, I'm gonna take some of that pigment off. Then I'm going to do another leaf here, nice and light. A light wash of one, changing up that value. Okay. And you can have like another little one here if we want. And then maybe a darker one right here. Can be in like 3s or 4s or 5s, whatever you want. And then I'm just going to go back in with some darker green, and I'm just going to tap the base of those just to give it a little bit of something extra. I don't know. Okay, and then we are going to do another one. Okay, we're going to do this all the way around. So I'm going to start off here. I'm going to do a little one, a bigger one. Okay, we can grab more pigment to make it darker, changing up those values. And then a light one. Grab our dark green and just tap in the base like that. Okay, let's do another one. And you can always turn your page. I'm going to do one here. Darker one here. And then a little light one over here. Like so. Grabbing our darker green again. And when you go back to tap in that darker green, just make sure there's not a lot of water on your brush, because then if it does, then it will push all the pigment away. All right, next one. Like so. Doesn't have to be 3. Like that. And then another one in the corner here. that, and then one more along the side. Like so. There we go, and it's kind of all evenly placed around. Okay, and then we are going to do our little pine sprigs. Maybe I could do a little one here. Okay. All right, so I'm going to grab my size 2 brush for this because it'll be easier to make. Okay, and I'm going to do, using my darker green, but watering it down just a little bit. And I'm just going to do some little stems like that. And just these little tiny pine needles. Like so. And then I'm going to go back in with some darker color and just kind of tap it in to the stem there. Okay, again, in between. Grabbing some more of that darker color and just tapping it in. That's something that we're changing from our last design. I'm just going to lift some of this a bit. It's a bit dark. And you basically just do the same thing all the way around the card in between those stems of leaves. Okay. And now we are going to place our berries in. So we're just going to do little groups of 3 berries using our red. So I'm just going to place them where, I don't know, where I think they would look good. So I'm going to do 1, 2, leaving a little bit of white. 3. Actually, you know what I might do is, again, working with those values. Might make some lighter, some darker. Just again to make it look interesting. Okay. I'm going to do some there. Wash off my pigment and just kind of use the water to let the colors bleed. So see how it's, some are dark, some are light. Do some in here. And again, we're just continuing on with that pattern. Okay, and then I'm going to take some darker red, just for a little bit of shadow on some of them. You can just like draw it in if you want. If it's still wet, you can let it bleed. I'm just going to do a bunch of these are actually dry. So I'm just going to do a darker red line around the base. That. Okay, and then lastly I'm just going to do a couple little stems. And there we go. There is our other design. Okay, and then lastly, for our last design here, we are going to do our pine cones with the foliage on the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to start by using my light brown, my burnt umber. And I don't know if my technique for my pine cones has changed really. I think it's kind of the same, but we're just going to do it anyway. So we're going to do one larger one and then one smaller one. And you're just going to take the tip of your brush, point it downwards. And you're just going to do these kind of like teardrop shapes going down. And I want you to think of like a cone, a pine cone, right? A shape. A rounded cone shape, and you're just going to do these teardrop shapes and they're going to slowly get wider or go out wider. Okay, you don't want to make them too perfect or symmetrical. Okay, you're going to leave some white space. You can even just draw it with the tip of your brush if you'd like. And then as you get closer to the bottom, it's going to be flatter. So just these like flat kind of C curves. You can make it go out a bit more if you want to make it a bit bigger. Okay, and then you're going to go back in with some darker brown. So I'm just going to use my sepia color. You could just add some black to your brown if you don't have a dark brown. And I'm just going to tap some darkness to the bottom of those shapes. Like that. Actually, I feel like these are a little thin. I'm going to kind of group them to make them a little bit thicker, some of them. Okay, now we're going to do it again, just a smaller one. It's going to be pointing this way. Just a smaller one. I feel like these were a bit thinner, so I'm just making them a bit thicker. I'm going to grab my darker brown again, tap the bottom, like so. Okay, so there's our 2 pine cones, and then we're just going to do the same kind of foliage that we did in the last. So I'm going to grab my olive green, and I'm going to start by doing some of those leaves. So I'm going to do a little stem, like that. Like that. I'm going to wash off some of the color to do some lighter values. Like that. Even grab a little bit of that darker green and just tap it in the base. Do another one kind of coming downward. Make some lighter. Grab our dark green. And then we'll do another one going the other way. Like that. And then we're going to do our same kind of pine needles coming out in between. They can bleed into some of the leaves too. They don't have to, you don't have to wait till it's dry. And then we're going to add our, actually I'm going to add a little bit of darkness to some areas. Now we're going to add our berries. That. And like that. Okay, and then if you want to, you can add just a little bit more darkness to your another kind of layer. Now that this is kind of dry, we're just going to add, actually I'm going to grab my size 6 brush for this just to make it a little bit more rounded. I'm just going to do another layer just to make it a bit more not detailed, but sharper, so it stands out a bit more. Like that. And there we go. There is that design. Oh, and we also, in our last one, we did the gold on this design too. So I'm just going to do that. There are our 3 kind of revamped designs based on my old, most popular holiday card tutorial. Let me know in the comments below if you like the new version of them or the old version, and let me know how yours turn out. Again, don't forget to look in the description below for more details on the giveaway on these awesome watercolor cards from Etcher. Thank you guys so much for watching my video. I really hope you liked it and I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on Instagram for even more. Have a great day, guys. Bye.